Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I am Mona Duncan, your host, and this program is dedicated to the present moment, to now, living in the now, and to experiencing all of life with gratitude and seeing how that we can improve it and make it better and just be thankful for everything that comes our way because it's giving us a lesson. And today we're going to be discussing paying attention to attention. With the pandemic still in progress, and whenever you're home, and you can be just more relaxed and even wear pajamas or take your shoes off or let your hair down, just be more relaxed. The thing of it is that physically, whatever we adapt to becomes the state that we frequent the most. And in the process, the more we do that, it's kind of like walking a path. And the more you walk that path, the more it becomes ingrained. And so the more we stay in those things that we're more familiar with, it becomes our personality. And we become so familiar with our habits and our attitudes that we often think that, well, I don't have any other alternative. This is just it. But it isn't. Those times when we are genuinely engaged with being who we are, whether that is in a moment of frustration or whether that is in a moment of peace and calm where you just sit down and, it's so nice just to sit here and relax. But to give focused attention to understand who you are and where you are and whether you want to continue to imprint yourself with those thoughts, with those actions, with those attitudes, and anything else that would, ingrain it into our memory. Because I found it really interesting. I was going to use this in another one that goes hand in hand with today's topic too, that Lisa Genova, who is the author of The Science of Memory, says the fact that the most searing memories are edited each time we revisit them. That no matter how much that memory is anchored into us, we have a tendency to edit it every time we remember it. Interesting. Anyway, in keeping with today's topic, there's a poem that I just love. It's called A Bag of Tools. And it's written by R.L. Sharp. And it says, "Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? For each has been given a bag of tools, a shapeless mass, and a book of rules. And each must make, ere life has flown, a stumbling block or a stepping stone." And I think this poem kind of goes hand in hand with the introduction of being at home or being more formal. That as we learn to pay attention to the moment, every moment that we're in, to stop and pause several moments during the day just to notice what you're doing or what you are thinking or what you are being. And as we even just speak that out to ourselves, whether that is to give something around the house or around the office or around wherever you are that would remind you to stop and think, to stop and pay attention. I am a cat person, and so anytime I see something that is either one of my kitties or something that's cat related, and as you can tell here, I have a lot of cat images in various places, but I use that as a prompter to help me to stop and think about, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I being? And just to be more aware of. And you know how I am with words. So I looked up the definition of the word attention and how looking at one particular word that has different scopes to it can give it more meaning or more depth or less depth. But that attention means to care. It means to show courtesy. It means to give consideration, to show kindness, to be devoted, to be helpful, to have put more thoughtfulness into it. And then also, almost every word has an opposite, with the exception of truth. There's no opposites to truth. It just is or it isn't. Maybe different degrees, but there's no opposite. But the opposite of attention is neglect. And we could also bring that in paying attention to yourself. Are you neglecting yourself in what you're doing, what you're thinking, and what you are being? Not living up to what your wisdom heart knows that you are. And then to have compassion, and how other words in other worlds give a different meaning. And the Latin definition of compassion means to have shared suffering. And the more we may be in-house, it may be some shared suffering there, but as we go on up with compassion and look at really paying attention, we can still be in a more healthy way as opposed to one that's not so good for us. So we want to pay attention to whenever those times that we may be mindless. You know, you mindlessly snacking or watching whatever's on the tube, or just looking at the social media just for entertainment and maybe buying into those things. And to look at, does the clock or the weather station, is that what determines whether you're hungry or whether you're cold or too warm? As we pay attention, or as we're around or just feeding off of another person's attitude, does it change your mindset? So let's begin to pay attention to when we are mindless, and then to make an overt intention to pay attention to what? Pay attention to what? To our total behavior, to our thoughts, our actions, our emotions, and our physiology. Is there anything that's uncomfortable? And remember that these emotions and our physiology follows the thoughts we think and the actions we take. And so just like this little prism here that is being held up to look at us at a gable type thing on a bridge, you can see that the actual monument, the actual concrete thing has been turned upside down. And all too often that happens with our perception, the way we see things, and that we get a more accurate mindset. We may see things upside down rather than looking at what they truly are like. And so in paying attention, and baby steps count, because it's those repeated small steps that leads to either being in a rut and staying there, or to improved strides. They begin to make a new pathway to wholeness when we begin to realize, oh, I'm thinking this, but I don't really want to think that. I want to be more okay with whatever the situation is. And that here's our behavior car, that the thinking and the acting is what's leading us. It's the doing part of us, whereas the feelings and the physiology is what follows. And then I think about the 2-minute rule that was coined by David Allen, and that if an action will take less than 2 minutes, it should be done in the moment that it is defined. So anytime we're seeing that, oh, there was an error there and I can correct it, go ahead and do it then, within that 2 minutes. And also, if we go by that 2-minute rule, we can begin to stop procrastinating a little quicker. We can begin to realize that, you know what, an object that is still takes more energy in order to move, and that action does produce energy, but let it be an action that is calming in the energy. And then also in paying attention, to be tough on your behavior while it also in the same time being gentle on you. That hold yourself in a state of regard and in the state of continual growth. And maybe even give the devil, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. And to find some ways that you're getting closer. Jay Levine was recently went through the stages in choice theory and reality therapy and became certified. And Jay is going to be doing a presentation soon, this Wednesday actually, on structured reality therapy. And he started off by saying structure is not a 4-letter word. And I like that. Jay also said, here I'm quoting him, the idea of relying on a tight structural approach can sound restrictive and therefore nasty, or just something you don't want to participate in. But Jay goes on to explain that Dr. Glasser shows us the power of following a structured and focused questioning track can lead to surprisingly positive results when applied to a marriage or to any relationship, especially to marriage, and into connecting, or to your family units, and into connecting rather than disconnecting. And so in the structured reality therapy developed by Dr. William Glasser, there are 5 primary questions. And so I've adjusted these questions just a little bit to think about paying attention to what you do, what you think, to your being, to all of that. And so are you here, or are you thinking this because you want help for your life? For not only today, but all of the tomorrows that's yet to be. But always, always, always asking yourself and honestly answering yourself, whose behavior can you control? The only person whose attitude and likes or dislikes that we have any lasting regard over is our own. So whose behavior can you control? And in your opinion, which, you know, is the only one that matters in the long run, what is wrong with your life at the present, right now? What's wrong now? What is it that's bringing those old no's? And again, in your opinion, what is good about your life as it is right now? And then what one thing could you do every day, this coming week from today forward, greeting the week on Monday, giving it a different color, giving it a different thought to look forward to. What can you do every day until next Monday that you think will improve your life? Whether that's in a thought, in an action, and then as we do this, that we begin to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. That we realize that all conditions in life are all a part of experience. That we use that, so to take that experience and use it as information, or going back to our poem that we looked at initially, use it as a stepping stone to overcome what was a rough patch, what was messy, what was muddy, what was difficult, to be a stepping stone, and to fill the mind with thoughts of goodness for self and for others. So here is a quote from Dr. Glasser. And Dr. Glasser said, and I'm looking here, this is our behavior car, and how I chose to separate it here. And Dr. Glasser said, I have no ability to change how I feel when I am separated from what I do or think. So you see, here's our total behavior car. And here, the feelings we're feeling, we don't know what we're feeling because we're just kind of in a quandary there because we're separated from our thoughts and actions. And so, but I have almost complete ability to change what I do, and some ability to change what I think, regardless of how I am choosing to feel. Those feelings still may be a little bit ambiguous. But as we try to separate ourselves by driving backwards from our thinking and our acting, then we become confused. I have no ability to change how I feel when I'm separated from what I do or think. But I have almost complete ability to change what I do, and some ability to change what I think, regardless of how I'm feeling. So it kind of goes back to the bag of tools. Isn't it strange that paupers and kings, it was, well, I looked it up and it said Princess by R.L. Shape. Whenever I heard it originally, it was, isn't it strange that paupers and kings? And I kind of like that different translation. And clowns that caper in sawdust rings, whether we're intelligent or whether we're just kind of idiotic, you know. And common folk like you and me, we're all builders. And we have been given those tools. They're in our wisdom heart. We may not have really recognized them. So what do you think? What about you? Do you think that you can pay attention to you and your thinking and your doing and your being? Well, I think you can. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you for your participation, and many blessings.